Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something pretty exciting in the Ethereum world, the Elastic Network.
That's right.
Now, if you're listening, you probably know your way around Ethereum. Maybe you've even heard some buzz about ZK Tech, zero-knowledge proofs.
Yeah, it's been hard to miss.
So our mission, our goal today is really clear. We want to help you understand what this Elastic Network actually is. What problem is it trying to fix? What's it aiming to replace or improve on?
And critically, how does its tech, the way it works, stack up against other options out there?
Exactly. We want you to walk away with a solid grasp of it.
And we've pulled together some great info for this. We're looking at talks with Alex Gluchowski from Matter Labs,
Ah, okay. Good source.
the official ZKSync announcement about the Elastic Chain itself, a piece from Zeev talking about ZKSync era's part in all this, and some really sharp analysis from Delphi Digital.
Nice. So a good mix of primary and analytical stuff.
Yeah, trying to synthesize it all to give that essential picture of the Elastic Network and, well, why people are paying attention.
Okay, let's jump right in then. What is the Elastic Network? Lay it out for us.
So at its core, the Elastic Network, which ZKSync is really pushing forward, is envisioned as this ever-growing network, a network of ZK rollup.
ZK rollups, okay.
But the key thing is, they're designed from the start to be natively interoperable, to work together smoothly, giving users like a uniform experience across the whole thing.
So wait, this isn't just ZK-Sync era, the layer 2 we already know. It's something bigger.
Exactly. That ZK-Sync 3.0 upgrade back in June 2024, that was the turning point. ZK-Sync evolved from being just that one L2 ZK-Sync era into this much broader network concept.
Okay.
In fact, they're talking about maybe 20, even more new ZK chains launching just this year, 2024, all using their framework, the ZK stack.
20 chains. Wow. Okay, so the elastic part of the name, that sounds like flexibility, scalability.
Precisely. Think about how the internet scales, right? When more people use it, we add more servers, more bandwidth, it expands. The Elastic Network aims for that same idea. It can theoretically increase its capacity without limit just by adding more ZK chains when demand goes up.
Which helps avoid that network clog and those crazy fees we sometimes see.
That's the goal, to match capacity to demand.
Sounds good conceptually, but technically, how do they achieve that kind of limitless scaling?
Well, the secret sauce is recursive ZK proofs.
Recursive proofs. Okay, break that down a bit.
Imagine you have a bunch of proofs showing transactions are valid. Recursive proofs let you bundle all those proofs together and create one single proof that proves all the underlying proofs are correct.
Ah, okay. Proofs of proofs.
Exactly, and this unlocks massive parallelism. Lots of proofs can be generated at the same time.
Right.
And here's the crucial part for scaling. Verifying that final single proof takes roughly the same amount of time. It's constant time no matter how many original proofs or how many chains are involved.
Constant time verification, regardless of network size. That is a big deal.
It really is. It means the network can grow huge, theoretically infinitely, without verification becoming a bottleneck, which is a major problem for some other scaling approaches.
So it's not just a bunch of separate chains operating near each other. They're truly woven together.
That's the vision. It's a federation, right? Autonomous ZK chains, but they're connected deeply at the protocol level. They talk about creating a zone of free movement, making the whole network feel and operate like it's just one single chain for the user and their assets.
That sounds like a much better experience. So what specific problems, what are the real pain points today that this Elastic Network is designed to solve?
The biggest one is fragmentation. We have tons of chains now, layer 1s, layer 2s, rollups.
Well, the multi-chain world.
Right. And while that has increased overall transaction capacity, it's led to a pretty messy user experience. It's confusing, capital gets locked up inefficiently, and frankly, it introduces security holes.
Can you give me an example, like something I might actually run into?
Sure. Let's say you've got some USDT, right? Stablecoin. And you want to use it in a cool DeFi app over on, I don't know, Arbitrum.
Okay.
Right now, you'd have to first find a bridge that works for USDT and Arbitrum. Then you go through their process, lock your tokens here, mint some wrapped version over there.
Wait for confirmations, hope the bridge is secure.
Exactly. You're waiting, maybe worrying a bit. Then finally, you get your funds on Arbitrum. Now, picture doing that shuffle constantly between different chains.
Ugh. Yeah, that's tedious. Different bridges, different fees, different risks every time.
It becomes a real headache. Complex, time-consuming, and definitely not user-friendly.
And you mentioned risk. It's not just about inconvenience, is it?
No, not at all. These third-party bridges, they've become massive targets for hackers.
Hmm.
Billions, literally billions of dollars have been stolen from bridge exploits.
Wow. Billions.
Yeah. And beyond the direct hack risk, these bridges need tons of capital locked up just to function, to provide liquidity between chains.
And someone has to pay for that locked capital.
You got it. Those costs get passed straight to users as bridging fees, which can add up surprisingly fast.
So as we get more chains,
Yep.
this whole bridging mess just gets worse and worse, kind of exponentially.
Precisely. The amount of liquidity needed, the complexity, it scales quadratically, basically. It becomes unsustainable. The Elastic Network wants to offer a fundamentally different, more integrated way.
Okay, so that's the problem. Fragmentation, bad UX, risk, inefficiency. What then is the Elastic Network trying to replace? What's the alternative vision?
It's positioning itself as a direct alternative to that whole fragmented landscape, and especially to the limitations and dangers of relying on all these separate third-party bridges.
Getting rid of that manual bridging step.
That's a huge part of it. Moving away from constantly having to shuttle assets between these isolated blockchain silos.
Now, I've heard about other efforts like Optimism's Superchain or Polygon's Ag Layer. They also talk about connecting chains, right? How's the Elastic Network different?
That's a really important point. While, yes, Superchain and Aglayer are also working on interoperability, the Elastic Network puts let's say, a stronger emphasis on the sovereignty of each individual ZK chain right from the get-go.
Sovereignty, meaning?
Meaning each chain in the Elastic Network keeps significant control over its own stuff, how it orders transactions, its sequencer, where it puts its data availability, its own governance. It's not necessarily a shared security model in the same way.
Okay, so you still interact with distinct chains, but the experience feels connected. It's not trying to hide the underlying chains completely.
Exactly. It's less about total abstraction where you have no idea what chain you're on and more about seamless interaction while still letting you understand and maybe even choose the chains you trust. Kind of like the internet, right?
Interesting analogy.
You use the same browser, your wallet, to access different websites, applications on different ZK chains, and you might trust some sites more than others, but the underlying connection feels smooth.
Got it. So, unified feel, single wallet maybe, but preserving the independence of the individual chains.
That's the vision. One wallet, interact with any app across the network, one click, one confirmation ideally, regardless of the specific ZK chain it's running on. Eliminate that friction.
All right, let's get into the technical weeds a bit, the nuts and bolts. How does this actually work? What are the key pieces?
Okay, so architecturally, there are a few main components working together. First up is the ZK router.
ZK router.
Think of it like the air traffic control for the network. It's a set of smart contracts living on Ethereum.
On L1.
Yep, on L1. It manages the overall network state, keeps track of which ZK chains are registered, handles critical messages between chains, and helps manage shared liquidity across the network. It's a central coordinator.
Okay, coordinator on Ethereum. How do the chains talk to each other and the router then?
That's where the ZK gateway comes in. This is like the universal translator and highway system. It's middleware.
Middleware, right.
Its job is to enable that full interoperability between the ZK chains. But it also does more, it helps speed up cross-chain stuff, giving faster finality.
Faster finality is good.
Definitely. And it optimizes how the whole network talks back to Ethereum by batching up proofs and state data from multiple chains before sending it to L1. Makes things cheaper.
Okay, so router coordinates in L1, gateway facilitates communication and optimizes L1 interaction. What about the chains themselves?
Right, the ZK chains, these are the actual blockchains in the network. They're built using that ZK stack framework we mentioned.
Or ZTech?
And they can be customized. You can set one up as a standard ZK rollup, posting proof and data at L1, or a Validium keeping data off-chain, or even a Volition letting users choose.
Flexible.
Very. And each one runs pretty independently, its own sequencer, data availability strategy, governance, but they're all plugged into the network via the ZK gateway and the router contracts on Ethereum. They're the individual engines all linked together.
So it's that combo router gateway chains that allows seamless interaction.
Exactly. Because they're linked at the protocol level via the gateway, they can pass messages and value back and forth much more directly. No need for those clunky, risky external bridges. The gateway streamlines verifying those cross-chain messages.
And security. How do they keep all this cross-chain activity safe? Always a big question.
Yeah, for sure. The security model here really leans on the math, the zero-knowledge proofs themselves.
Right, the ZK part.
Each chain proves its own state transitions are valid, and those proofs get checked ultimately on Ethereum. It's security rooted in cryptography, not, trusting a majority of validators, we'll be honest.
Less reliance on economic incentives or honest majority assumptions?
Correct. The long-term dream they talk about is making verification so efficient, even your smartphone could eventually verify the proofs.
That'd be pretty cool.
Hmm.
What about cost? Moving assets between these ZK chains, is it still going to cost a lot, like bridging does now?
The goal is definitely no. They want cross-chain transactions within the Elastic Network to be basically as cheap as doing a transaction on a single ZK chain. Again, the ZK gateway is key. It aggregates proofs from multiple chains and compresses the state updates.
Uh-huh.
So less data needs to hit Ethereum L1 for verification. This makes settling through the gateway potentially cheaper than if each chain settled its own data directly on Ethereum.
Okay, cheaper settlement via aggregation. And you mentioned faster finality earlier. How does that work compared to waiting for bridge confirmations?
The ZK gateway helps here too. It verifies the proofs coming from the chains involved in a cross-chain interaction. Plus, the gateway itself is run by validators who have stake, providing economic security.
Ah, right.
This combination gives a high degree of confidence that a cross-chain transaction is valid much, much faster than waiting for typical bridge mechanisms. The gateway acts as a sort of quick confirmation layer.
Gotcha. And you stressed sovereignty before. How do these chains stay independent if they're all interconnected like this?
That's a core design principle. Unlike some systems where chains pool security and might lose some autonomy, each elastic chain keeps control over its sequencer, its data availability choices, its governance. They can even choose to run a centralized sequencer, maybe for better performance initially, but crucially, there's always a guaranteed escape hatch for users, a priority queue back on Ethereum L1 to force withdrawals.
So users aren't locked in, even with a centralized sequencer on a specific chain.
Exactly. User funds remain secured by the L1 mechanism.
Makes sense. And scalability, the big promise.
Yeah.
Let's revisit that.
Yeah.
How does this architecture deliver that potential for near infinite capacity?
Well, fundamentally, it's the ability to just keep adding more ZK chains horizontally, need more capacity, spin up another chain.
Okay.
And because proof generation can happen in parallel across all these chains, and because of those recursive proofs keeping verification time constant, plus ongoing hardware improvements like GPUs, maybe VPUs down the line, hardware acceleration, the latency for proving doesn't necessarily increase just because the network gets bigger. Alex Gluchowski has even floated the idea of near real-time proving eventually.
Near real-time. Wow. Okay, final piece. User experience. We touched on it, but recap the key features that make it smoother for me, the user.
Yeah, it all comes back to that unified feel. So aiming for one wallet address across all chains.
Nice.
Ideally, single click or single signature transactions, even if they span multiple chains. Fast confirmations thanks to the gateway. And a big one, paying transaction fees in basically any common liquid token you happen to hold. No more hunting for the specific native gas token for every single chain.
That would be a huge improvement.
Definitely. Plus, they're looking at things like Face ID or passkey integration to make onboarding way easier, getting away from the whole seed phrase complexity for mainstream users.
Okay, this framework sounds powerful. What's the toolkit developers actually use to build these chains for the Elastic Network?
That would be the ZK stack. Think of it as the Lego set for building ZK blockchains. It's designed to be modular, flexible, and relatively easy for developers to pick up. It gives them the components to build their own custom ZK chain that's already designed to plug right into the Elastic Network and interoperate.
And are people actually using it? Is there an ecosystem forming?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The momentum is really picking up. Like we said, potentially 20-plus new chains launching this year alone, joining ZKSync Era and Chronos, which is what Crypto.com uses.
Right.
And we're seeing all sorts of projects. You've got Abstract from the Pudgy Penguins team.
Oh, interesting. Community focus.
Yeah, bringing community stuff on chain, Lens Protocol for decentralized social media, Treasure DAO in the gaming space. And it's not just crypto native teams. Big players like Deutsche Bank, UBS, they're exploring this tech too.
Enterprise interest too. Okay. So ZK-Sync Era being the first one, it must play a pretty central role still, right?
That's a great point, yes. While all chains aim to be sovereign, Era's maturity is a huge asset for the whole network. Well, it's battle-tested, right? It has significant liquidity already, tons of integrations with wallets, oracles, fiat ramps, All that essential infrastructure got built out and tested on Era first.
So new chains don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. They can leverage Era's existing integrations and liquidity from day one. It dramatically speeds up their launch process. Era kind of acts as an incubator or an initial hub for the network.
And the ZK token, does it tie into this whole network?
It does. The idea is that the ZK token's utility and value proposition aren't just tied to Era, but reflect the activity and growth across the entire Elastic network.
Okay.
And initiatives like ZKSync Ignite, where they distribute ZK tokens to incentivize liquidity on Era, that helps the whole network too. More capital on Era means more capital easily accessible to the other interconnected chains because of that native interoperability.
Got it. So looking ahead, what's next? What are they working on?
Lots on the roadmap. Achieving full EDM bytecode equivalence is a big one. Makes it super easy for existing Ethereum apps to just deploy.
Less friction for devs.
Right. Also, just pushing throughput higher, improving security further, aiming for higher stages of decentralization for rollups, continuing to refine the UX, and enabling interoperability even for private permission chains, maybe for enterprise use.
Ambitious. Any examples of this stuff hitting the real world yet, outside of pure crypto?
Actually, yes. There's a pretty interesting partnership in Buenos Aires.
Oh, yeah.
The city government there is using a ZK-Sync-powered solution called Quark ID to issue secure digital identities to its citizens. Millions of them.
Digital IDs on ZKSync.
Yeah. It shows the potential beyond just finance things, like managing official documents securely and accessibly, a real-world use case.
Okay, fascinating. So let's try to wrap this up. For someone like me, familiar with ETH, dabbled in ZK, what are the main takeaways on the Elastic Network?
I'd say the core idea is this. The Elastic Network is ZK-Sync's ambitious plan to fix blockchain fragmentation.
Okay.
It envisions a super scalable, seamlessly interoperable network of ZK chains, all secured by ZK proofs, verified on Ethereum.
Right, security by math.
And the big payoff is meant to be a dramatically better user experience, making interacting across chains feel as smooth as just using the web today. It's really trying to replace the whole complex, risky, fragmented bridging model we have now.
So making the underlying plumbing, the different chains, almost invisible, or at least frictionless, so users can just focus on the apps.
Exactly. It's about creating a more unified, efficient foundation for the next wave of decentralized applications in this multi-chain world.
Definitely gives me a clearer picture. Feels like a significant step towards a more connected blockchain future, if they pull it off.
It really does. And maybe that leaves a thought for everyone listening. If we do get this truly interoperable, truly scalable blockchain internet,
Right.
what does that unlock? What new things become possible across different industries, or even just in how you interact online? Might be worth exploring the ZK Sync ecosystem, checking out who's building on this Elastic network, and seeing how it unfolds.